Yeah. Like God bought himself a pair of eyeglasses so he could watch us better.
Joseph Conrad wrote his intention when writing was to make you hear, to make you feel, it is before all to see. 16 years later, D.W. Griffiths independently stated remarkably similar intentions for cinema. The task I'm trying to achieve is above all to make you see. Moving from one form to another results in stories that differ from each other widely, while still relating to the original source, but with varying levels of success. There is an art to adaptation. There have been countless adaptations of The Great Gatsby, but we are focusing on 3 from distinctly different time periods.
Gatsby probably doesn't know it himself.
I think he does. You see, I'm Gatsby.
How do you do, old sport? I'm Gatsby.
I'm Gatsby.
The most discernible change the directors make to the original text when adapting a film is what they include and what they omit. Brian McFarlane emphasises that adapting literary works to film requires a kind of selective interpretation and the ability to recreate and sustain an established mood. Selective interpretation and writing independently to the original text has the power to change the overall tone of the film, and the inclusion, exclusion, or addition of scenes marks the biggest change between the 3 adaptations. They do, however, all contain the same essential storyline.
I lived at West Egg on the, well, less fashionable side of the Courtesy Bay.
Hello, Daisy.
Nick, darling.
This kaleidoscopic carnival spilled through Gatsby's door.
Jay. Let's go to town. Who wants to go to town?
Town? She's never loved you. She loves me.
I love you now. Isn't that enough? I did love him once, but I loved you too. The yellow car! Stop!
It was Daisy. Daisy was driving.
The 1974 adaptation adheres most strictly to the novel. The majority of the film is made up of descriptive narration and dialogue lifted directly from the text, with minimal amendments.
Chapter 3. There was music from my neighbor's house through the summer nights. In his blue gardens, men and girls came and went like moths among the whisperings and the champagne and the stars.
The 2013 Baz Luhrmann interpretation, on the other hand, reimagines aspects of the story, straying away from the original text and having the confidence to add additional narrative, or seamlessly adding passages in the style of the original text.
Gossip columnists alongside gangsters and governors exchanging telephone numbers. Film stars, Broadway directors, morality protectors, high school defectors, and Ewing Klipspringer, dubious descendant of Beethoven.
Additional scenes also appear in the 1949 film, fleshing out Gatsby's extensive backstory, which only appears through dialogue or brief flashbacks in the other 2 films.
What's your name?
Jimmy Gatz?
Where do you live?
Over on the shore there?
Parents? What do you do for a living?
Oh, I fish.
Fish. You like that?
Sure.
However, the nature of adaptation and selective interpretation means scenes need to be removed as well as added.
So however touching the scene was, really it was confusing this re-internalizing of Nick. We see, this is something you do in cinema, we see young Gats very early on when Nick Carraway says his real name was James Gats. We see a little boy already with vision, reaching up, having a vision. So we know this. We know he was born with ambition. We've been told it earlier. So again, it was a very, very hard decision, and it was in the film for a very long time.
Even with all these changes, Luhrmann remains true to the book in the use of on-screen text, a clear reference to the original form, and a literal interpretation of the text-to-film sign system theory, which emphasises the importance of turning verbal signs into visual ones.
Unlike the older of the 3 adaptations, Luhrmann does not attempt to create a historically accurate jazz soundtrack.
I can never know what Fitzgerald would think of what we've done with the film, but I've done it, I hope, in a way to help the audience get a feeling of what jazz might have felt like in the 20s. Dangerous, intoxicating, and thrilling.
In comparison, the 1974 soundtrack, although more historically accurate, is underwhelming and fails to capture the energetic mood of the Roaring '20s.
The diegetic sounds that the directors choose to pick out of the text and bring to life through sound effects can again massively affect the impact a scene has on the audience. Compare the shrill interruption the sound of the phone creates in the 2013 film to the 1974 adaptation.
Excuse me.
The novel personifies the phone as a fifth guest, and yet it is easily overlooked in the 1974 version. According to McFarlane's theory on the translation of verbal signs, Clayton has failed to translate this into a visual sign. The clearest translation of the verbal signs in the book into the visual signs on screen is through the use of colours. Myrtle, the other woman, who proves dangerous to Tom, Gatsby, and ultimately herself, is highlighted as a sexual and dangerous character by the bold red and orange colours in the 1974 and 2013 films, while the 1949 film has a severely restricted black and white colour palette. Myrtle is dressed in black, a costume decision traditionally associated with villains in monochrome cinema. Comparisons of the same iconic scene across the 2013 and 1974 versions highlights the differences colour makes to a scene. Clayton opts for muted pastels, while Luhrmann, just as with every other aspect of the film, goes for the more dramatic option.
While Baz Luhrmann's dramatic visual and audio components have been criticised by many for being inordinate, in reality, these are means by which he capitalises on the medium of film. The 2013 version seems to tick all the boxes, by simultaneously paying homage to the original text and having the confidence to add something new. The 1974 version fails to translate the text from verbal sign signals to visual ones, while the 1949 film alters the structure of the text to such an extent that the established mood of the original is completely changed. However, all these observations are made in reference to the original text. Is it right to compare them in this way? Film and literature are different mediums. Perhaps there is no such thing as the perfect adaptation after all.